Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my journey to teaching concept-based math. My name is Mr. E, and I'm here again with Dr. Jennifer Chang-Wathall. And let's go ahead and get right into it. So hopefully you saw the first video. If not, we covered our introductions there, and Dr. Chang-Wathall gave a definition or characteristics, if you will, of concept-based math instruction. So we already covered that. So we're going to move forward into the last two parts of this series, if you will. The unit web, what are the mathematical processes? And also unit web, what are guiding questions? Just a quick note. My goal for doing these videos on my website is to help teachers make the shift to teaching math for conceptual understanding. Help myself too. It's kind of self-serving as well. All right. So I am going to turn this over to Dr. Chang-Wathall so she can explain to us what is a unit web and what are the parts of the unit web.
Thank you, Will. And it's wonderful to have these graphics here to really help us understand and unpack another piece of the jigsaw in trying to teach for deep conceptual understanding. So you can see here that this is a web, which is a bird's eye view, an overview of the entire unit. And when we look at a web, we should be able to see the generalizations, the micro concepts, and then the category, or what we call the unit strand, which is, I think, a group of generalizations that you would actually teach together. So this unit web reflects the order that you would teach different concepts. So you may be teaching unit strand 1 first, then go on to unit strand 2. Now, how do we actually brainstorm and come up with this unit web? And this is really key. And I think, Will, when you participated in the online course, you collaborated with a lovely partner. Who was your partner again?
I knew you were going to ask me. As soon as you said that, I forgot.
Sorry.
I saw it coming up.
I forgot. Who was your partner?
It'll come to me at the end. I'm going to just
all right.
name. Go ahead. Yeah.
So you can
Claire.
Oh, Claire. And
yes.
So who was your partner, Will, that you worked with to collaborate on a unit?
It was Claire.
Okay, so I know that you and Claire brainstormed and you looked at your standards and content that you needed to cover first, and you generated all of these standards on separate post-it notes, or we did it digitally on a Google Slides. And then we started grouping those standards into categories or into these unit strands. And so if you remember previously, Will and Claire actually developed this wonderful unit looking at congruence and looking at similarity and those different conceptual ideas. So they decided to divide their unit into I think one of your strands was congruence and another one of your strands was similarity. Is that right, Will?
Right. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, that's right. And so how did they come up with those strands? They looked at their content first, the standards that they had to cover. They generated those concepts on separate post-it notes. So things like rigid motion, translation, reflection, rotation would have been all on separate post-it notes. And then Claire and Will decided to group them into, well, this is a theme of congruence, and here's the theme of similarity, and this is how we would teach it. So once they actually came up with the strand categories of congruence and similarity, then you both co-created these wonderful generalizations that are in the light blue box. So as an example, we have students will understand that basic rigid motions move or map points in a plane in such a way that preserves the angle measurements and segment length. And so if a student said that to you, I think that would reflect such deep, rich understanding. And that's our goal, for our students to be able to arrive at these understandings, these generalizations in the light blue box. Now, as well as the content and the knowledge in mathematics, we know that we also have processes. So you can see down here, there is a section for us to identify a mathematical process and to create and craft a generalization based on the processes. So what processes do we use? Well, I've come up and distilled these 6 that you can see in a hexagon. So we have problem solving, making connections, reasoning and proof, inquiry techniques, communication, and representations. And where did these 6 come from? I looked at all the systems around the world, including the Common Core state standards, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, mathematical practices. I looked at the International Baccalaureate Assessment objectives. I looked at Hong Kong because that's where I was based and looked at their higher order thinking skills. I also looked at the Australian statements of learning and how to work mathematically. And when I looked at all the different systems around the world, I noticed what was common were these 6 processes that were mentioned. So I distilled those different systems to these 6. And so we want to be able to explicitly teach these particular processes so that students can explicitly understand how to problem solve or how to make connections. So let's take a look at that strand. We would, in this particular unit, Claire and Will actually decided to focus and explicitly teach create representations. This was something that you both identified as being an important skill and process to be able to, for students to be able to undertake. So Will, what was your process in thinking about choosing this particular process? Because you originally chose reasoning and proof, right? So what was the thinking behind that?
Well, Claire, she chose reasoning and proof because that was one of her examples. But as you know, I'm transitioning to a new school. As I got a hold of some of the stuff I'm going to be teaching, I didn't see reasoning and proof. So for mine, I took it out. She may have kept hers in.
Right.
Going forward, I don't think I'm going to be teaching reasoning and proof. I could be wrong, but from the documents I saw, I didn't see reasoning and proof in this unit. So I just went ahead and stuck with create representations.
Excellent. And I think that gives teachers good guidance on how to choose the mathematical process. Take a look at the content and the standards, and then choose 1 or 2 of these 6 processes for 1 unit to explicitly teach, so that students then can understand how to create representations. And so if we have a look at the micro concepts then that were generated, they were representations, looking at different graphs, diagrams, symbols, and even looking at spreadsheets as a representation. And if we were to put this in a sentence of relationship to create this process generalization, we have students who will be able to understand creating representations by using words, drawings, graphs, diagrams, symbols, and technology enhances creativity. And you can see here that Will, he's moving to an IB MYP school. So he also has crafted a statement of inquiry here. Form and pattern can be changed to enhance creativity and products. And this is like the big overarching generalization for the whole unit. So that mathematical process strand is another piece in that jigsaw for our entire unit web, so that we have an overview, a bird's eye view of the conceptual understandings for that unit.
One thing I want to say that we didn't say earlier is that I don't want anyone to be confused. I'm going to an IB framework, but yes, your unit web, based on, like you went to Texas, and it works for anyone who's making the shift. And I wanted to emphasize that, because even when I was in your class, I just thought, it doesn't look like IB. And I realized it's not an IB class.
Yes.
It's a class on teaching for conceptual understanding, a concept-based mathematics. It works no matter where you go, and you're teaching for conceptual understanding. So I wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah, beautiful point, Will. Beautiful point, I think.
All right, so we got one more point. I don't like going this long, but we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Guiding questions. This is something that I still kind of struggle with, but I'll let you go ahead, because all the stuff is from your book anyway. So I'll just go ahead.
Thank you, Will. I think, one of the tools that a teacher has in their teacher toolbox is the use of questions. And the art of questions and crafting questions is key, I think, to being a very effective teacher and to promote and enhance learning for our students. And so once we have crafted those generalizations on the unit web, for each generalization, we then craft guiding questions, and that helps students to arrive at those conceptual understandings, because we do not share those generalizations from the unit web with our students. We want our students to arrive at those generalizations through the use of guiding questions. So let's have a look at some of these important points. I really like how you've summarized guiding questions, essential questions, guide students to, oops, sorry, it's going back to your 4 points I was going to read, Will.
What do you see right now?
I see guiding questions, generalization, factual, conceptual, debatable.
Oh, you want to go back? Okay.
Yeah.
You want me
So
there?
I'll start again. Yeah. So let me start. So Will, let's have a look at these very important points that you've outlined here about guiding questions. One is that they guide students' thinking from concrete to conceptual. I love that point, because that means that we start with factual, concrete questions and then move into conceptual questions. Number two, the guiding questions bridge the factual to the conceptual, which supports the generalizations of the unit. Exactly. So we're focusing on that factual content and the conceptual understanding. Number three, for the entire unit, there may be 1 or 2 or 3 even debatable or provocative questions. And 4, each generalization may have 3 to 5 factual and conceptual questions. So let's have a look at an example that you and Claire co-created. So we look at this generalization. Students will understand that.
Just keep, okay, I'll go to them. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Was that the explanation of each of the steps?
That was the explanation each one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to go through that?
Sure, why not?
Okay. So again, let's just reiterate. The generalization actually gives us the explanations of why and what we want our students to comprehend in terms of the relationship between 2 or more concepts. Now, factual questions are what questions? It's what we want students to know or memorize. So very low order thinking with factual questions. When we move to conceptual questions, they really help to answer the question why. You know, what do we want students to actually understand? And in a unit, we might have 2 or 3 debatable or provocative questions for the entire unit. And I think these sometimes, these debatable or provocative questions, I think sometimes can be used at the beginning of a unit as inquiry questions to provoke thought and to provoke curiosity and motivation at the beginning. So let's have a look at an example to see what I mean. Okay, do you want to go through this one, Will, because you crafted this?
Okay, so our generalization, one of them was students will understand that basic rigid motions map points in a plane in such a way that preserves angle measurements and segment length. So you have to know these, and so a lot of these are concepts here. What's a rigid motion? What does translation, rotation, reflection mean? What are the basic properties of rigid motions? What does it mean when someone says angle preserving, and what are direct lines? I mean, there was a whole list of things we could have put there. Some of the conceptual questions: how can you prove that shapes are identical? What does mapping explain? How does mapping explain the concept of rigid motion? So how does moving something, and if you're on a plane, you know, looking at the ordered pairs, how does that mapping, how does that function work, and how does that explain the concept of rigid motion? Beautiful. And our debatable question, which I always struggle with, is are congruent shapes better than any non-congruent shapes when creating art?
Yeah.
So
that's an excellent debatable question, because normally there is no one answer to debatable questions, and that's why they're debatable. So you could argue both cases, and you could start the entire unit with this question, right? Because it's it can provoke some curiosity, and students will be very curious about, well, let's go investigate this a little bit more.
Right. Okay. All right. So I think we squeeze all that in. So any more final points you want to make on this before we close this one out?
Well, yes, thank you, Will. There's one very important point that I want to stress, and that is that the unit web is a collaborative process. So I'm going to encourage everybody to create unit webs with a thinking partner or with a small team, maybe your grade level team, because I think it's always important to collect other people's opinions and also value other people's experience, your colleagues that you're working with. So please make sure that when you create a unit web, that it's a collaborative brainstorming process.
Yes, it's a lot of work, and four eyes or two eyes, or however you say it, are better than just one. So
yes,
I enjoy working with Claire, and I look forward to working with my colleagues when I do go to China. So because it's a lot of work, but once you get there, it's just so enlightening. It is. It really is.
It's wonderful to hear. I hope that everyone has takeaways from hearing about Will's journey. And it's really, I think for us, really helpful to see your thinking and how you've unpacked these different jigsaw pieces in this whole big concept-based framework. So thank you, Will, for sharing this.
And thank you for sharing with me. All right, so we're going to let you guys go. Kind of went over my usual time, but I wanted to finish it all in one video. So again, thank you, Dr. Jennifer Chang-Wathall. And like she said, I hope you all can take away from this and you're closer in your journey to being able to teach concept-based math. All right, talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you.
Bye-bye.